I love
Yeah.
Guam. I mean, even if you go south, it's so beautiful. Agate has the best sunset, and I
Yes.
never get tired. I've been living on Guam for 27 years. I never get tired of our sunset. I still walk to Tumon. I still drive my kids to Maleso. Um, you know, um, some of us forget to enjoy Guam too. People pay thousands of dollars to be on Guam. I don't ever take it for granted.
Well, today it's your innovation coach, Rob Jackson, and welcome to another edition of the Innovate Guam podcast, the podcast where we explore all things innovation, technology, and improvement related to the island of Guam. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me on YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Substack. My podcasts drop at the beginning of each week. Also, be sure to check out my Innovate column in the Pacific Daily News every first and third Friday of the month. All right, our guest for today's episode is Siska S. Hutapea, one of Guam's most respected, most credentialed real estate valuation leaders, and the founder and president of Cornerstone Valuation Guam Incorporated. And I'm going to say this plainly. Siska is the Kathy Wood of real estate. Not because she does the same thing that Kathy does, but because on Guam, when it comes to real estate, market intelligence, valuation rigor, and credible analysis, she's in a category of one. Just like Kathy Wood, her word is gold. What she says is the truth, if you will. She's also one of those rare professionals who's known by one name, Siska. Like Beyonce or Rihanna, like a brand, like a signal, when people say Siska, everyone in the industry knows exactly who we're talking about. She is the founder and president of Cornerstone Valuation, a valuation advisory and Guam market analytics firm, as I said before. But what's interesting is she started her career as an engineer, earning a degree in civil engineering with a concentration in structural engineering. She later earned a master's degree in real estate. She also has earned top tier professional certifications, credentialing, and designations across a litany of appraisal and investment disciplines. For example, she is a certified commercial investment member, a chartered member of the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. She has a right of way appraisal certification and several other specific certifications from the Appraisal Institute. She is known for bringing rigor, ethics, and data to issues that touch everyone, everything from housing affordability, development strategy, property tax systems, and investment decision making. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you simply Siska.
Thank you,
Siska,
Rob. Have a
welcome
day,
to the
Rob, and have a day,
podcast.
everyone.
All right. Welcome to the podcast. I am so excited to have you. If you can't tell, I'm fanboying out over here because I have
Thank you. I was
long.
gonna tell you, Rob. After this podcast, maybe I could hire you to talk to my 5 children and tell them how awesome their mom is.
I would love to do that. I tell you, I have really grown to have a deep respect for you and what you do from
Oh, thank
afar
you.
for a long time now. So it's just really exciting for me to have you finally on the podcast.
Thank
So
you.
we have a tradition here on the podcast where we
Oh,
start off with some icebreaker questions to get to know and understand where your head is at when it comes to innovation. So, the question that I ask everyone, what's your definition of innovation and what does innovation mean to you?
oh, I love that. I was just telling my youngest daughter, she's 16, and I told her if you have to pinpoint one good quality of your mother is the willingness to learn. And I think as long as you have that mindset of willing to learn, I think you're gonna keep innovating, and I think that's what the words innovation means. That you don't have a closed mindset, you have an open mindset that can see a problem differently, analyze it, and then get a solution that will work, and not just some kind of thing that is just in la la land and not practical. So to me, innovation means willing to see a problem from a different perspective and willing to apply solution no matter how hard it is.
Yeah, yeah. So, you're trained as an engineer and became one of Guam's top valuation experts. What parts of an engineering mindset show up most when and how you analyze markets and make tough judgment calls on evaluation?
Yeah, I was kind of thinking about that because my son, actually, my daughter, who is a computer engineer, and she's working at a software as a software engineer right now in Seattle. And my son is a junior at USC for electrical engineering. I was like kind of in the beginning try to discourage them because engineering school is really hard, and all of those high level math and physics, it's really hard. But looking back, I am really grateful because I think not all of the physical law or the calculus that I study I apply it to my day-to-day job, but the persistence and grit and the willingness to stay on until you find the solution is really valuable, and not be afraid of doing the hard things. So that's what I think is like really what the engineering school taught me.
I was laughing because I thought you would go the other way with your kids. Having a mother as credentialed and accomplished as you, that they had to be able to be all of these great things like computer engineers and all of this kind of stuff. They
Well, that
had
too. Come
to
on,
meet
Rob.
that
I'm
high bar.
Asian. They have to be lawyer, doctor, or engineer.
There you go. There you go. I tell you. Innovation leaders, it's your innovation coach, Rob Jackson here. Are you ready to elevate your vehicle fleet operations? Fleet Solutions is an AI enabled fleet management system. Fleet Solutions provides real time video, smart analytics, and total efficiency. Keep your people safe and keep your business moving forward faster than ever before. Fleet Solutions, arriving tomorrow, today. Visit thefleetsolutions.net or call 671 988 9748 to schedule your personalized demo and revolutionize your fleet operations today. So I'm really excited about today's episode because it's going to give us an opportunity to talk about how Guam's real estate market actually works behind the scenes, and push it even farther to kind of talk about housing, tourism development, lessons learned from the Tumon buildup, the military housing requirements, and talking about industrial land space for maybe the 21st century Guam economy. So I'm really excited about that. But before we get into it, I'm really interested in what I would call the Siska story. You know, take us back. Where did you grow up, and what shaped your ambition early on?
Okay, so I was the firstborn, so that tells a lot, right? Of four siblings, all sisters, I was born in North Sumatra, just across from Strait Malacca from Singapore. But I grew up in Jakarta, the capital city of Indonesia. So I'm Indonesian. of a North Sumatran ethnic group, and most of us are Lutheran, born Lutheran. So I am still attending Lutheran Church here on Guam, and I studied in Australia, Sydney. So my bachelor degree in structural engineering, I studied it in Jakarta. And then I went and get my master degree in real estate in Sydney, Australia. So the Australia is in a British system. So it kind of different than when I moved to Guam and we're using the American system. So like just the metric system is different
Yes.
and all of that good stuff. But my mom and dad, they both went to heaven already. But they both instill like really good, strong faith, value in faith and education in both in all of my siblings' life. So my dad paid for all of my my education up to master degree, all of us actually. And
So
yeah, and he did say education is the gift that keeps on giving, and it is so true. And then my mom, and my dad was an appraiser too, by the way, and so that's how I get into the appraisal business. But my
really,
mom is a
okay.
teacher. She's a teacher, and she's very savvy investor. So she passed away at 78, and she still manages some rental units when she passed away. So she's very one of the thing that she always told me, it doesn't matter how much you earn, how much income you make. It matters how much you invest. And so that, that carries with me. And I'm lucky to have such a great parents.
Yes. So let's talk about the shift. So you start off in engineering and then you shift to real estate. What was the turning point and what made you realize, hey, this is where I'm meant to be?
Yeah. So I jokingly said that I always loved numbers ever since I was little. I love math. Math is really good. And then I love numbers even more when it has a dollar sign in front of it. So that's why I switched from engineering to real estate. But joking aside, it was my dad who wanted me to grow his company, and that's why I practiced as a structural engineer for a couple of years. And my professor hired me when I was still in the last year of school to become a structural engineer. But then my dad said, hey, why don't you take a master degree in real estate, and then you can grow my company. But when I come back to Jakarta from studying in Australia, it was the Asian economic crisis, 97, 98. And while attending a conference, and I becoming the chief delegate of Indonesia on a real estate conference in Singapore, because all of the elder generation, they were all so busy with the crisis, the economic crisis. So I had to do it, and then I get the job offer to work in Guam, and the rest is history.
Wow. Off of that, you got the job offer to go to Guam. And it's
Yeah.
amazing that your father poured into you and gave you that opportunity to run his company. The other thing that I find it very interesting about your story is, all of the education and credentialing into real estate. You got a master's degree in real estate. You don't really see that in the United States. It seems like that's more of a thing uh, internationally to get that level of education. In the United States, people kind of just focus on getting their real estate license and then they're off and running. So you getting that level of deep education in it, that's really something very interesting, as well as all the credentials. So why did you pursue like all of that kind of credentialing versus like have a real estate license? I can do this.
Yes, yes. We're in a small island in Guam, and I don't want to grow old and not learn new things in my industry. I want it to have the, local knowledge, but what should I say, global understanding of how real estate works. And I don't want to be behind when I attended conference for Appraisal Institute or CCIM. I made Guam proud when we do the CCIM, the Certified Commercial Investment Manager. We have to do like a test before we can become one, and I score 100, which is rare. And
Wow.
just make Guam proud. But I really do want to level up as far as global knowledge. But I know Guam inside out as far as the real estate location and everything and factors affecting real estate in Guam, which is sometimes unique because we're such a small island with a lot of outside influence. And so I do not want to grow old in my profession and not learning new things. I guess I love innovation, Rob.
I love it. So you founded Cornerstone in 2012. What was the founding vision and what was the gap that you saw on Guam that you were determined to fill? Tell that story.
Yes. So I came to Guam in May 1999. Actually, my late husband and I, we came here for our honeymoon because I already got a job offer. So we came here in August of 98, honeymooning in Guam. And obviously, when you're in honeymoon, you see things, way better, right? And so we decided we
Yes.
want to grow our family here on Guam. So the next year in May 99, we moved to Guam. And I was working with my former partner, Nick Captain, and I worked with him until around 2012. So I have my last baby. We have 5 children. My late husband and I. We have 5 children, 3 girls and 2 boys. And in 2012, really, my baby is already almost 3 years old, 2.5 years old, and I felt like I could do better if I have my own company. And I see potential, and I see opportunity in that field. And I was working with my dad company before, and so I said this is the time. And I do my business plan. I work with a consultant to do my business plan, and then I took a line of credit so that I could concentrate on the things that I know best, which is valuation, and not worry about cash flow until later. Because we know during the process of doing my business plan, you can't just see it linearly or
Yes.
vertically. From profit
Yes.
minus expenses. I mean, income minus expenses is profit, because cash flow comes and go, and it doesn't come.
Right.
Your income doesn't come at the same time as your expenses, so you have to really think about it. So that's why I took the line of credit. But really, I take my profession as an appraiser and real estate consultant as my ministry. I think in life you have to have a purpose.
Yes.
And it could change over time. I actually read Purpose Driven Life book by Rick Warren like at least
Yes.
4 times in my various stages of life. And I think you have to have a purpose. And that's what I always tell my staff. You know, um, it's not that I don't care about money, but when you do the best that you can in your field, the money part will come by itself. And it doesn't mean that I didn't check my financial statements every weekend. I do that, but you you have to have a purpose that you in the Cornerstone. The reason why I chose Cornerstone, besides it's my faith, but also Cornerstone is the things that people based things on. And then I want to create a product a report, an appraisal report, a real estate analysis report that can provide strong basis for my client to make their informed real estate decision making. And in order for me to be able to do that, I have to build a database. I have to build a database. I have to increase my knowledge constantly, and so and compound it that, and then create a product that could help people be successful in their real estate decision making. So I guess I see that niche, and that's why the name. And our company motto is "We Value." And it's not just the things that we do. We provide valuation, but we also, that's the way we want to interact, on how we interact with our customer, with our client, with the public. And that's why I maintain the real estate database and publish statistics on it as a public service, to try to make Guam market more efficient.
Yes, yes. So, I really would like to get you to tell the story about how you went to Bank of Guam to get your line of credit to start your business, because it really speaks to the underlying trust and respect that you've built over years from the time that you arrived on island. And I think that story really kind of brings out the trust and respect that people had for you already at that point. Can you tell a little bit of that story?
Sure. So yeah, when I try to get my line of credit, of course, I don't just go there with my name and whatnot. I need to do a business plan. So I came out of pocket to pay a consultant to do the business plan. The business plan not only is a tool for me to bring to the bank, but also like the way I see how I want to progress my business. So it has two sides to it. So I brought the business plan to the loan officer there, and then the loan officer say, I only wanted $50,000 line of credit.
Hmm.
And then I talked to Joyce Miyashita. I think she's the head of the commercial department at the time, and she said, oh, okay, why don't you meet with our president and let her see your business plan. And then the president at the 10th floor of Bank of Guam look at my business plan, and she said, what took you so long, and why do you only ask for 50,000? We'll give you 100,000. And that vote of confidence, I'll never forget that, because it empowers me. And I'm very disciplined about paying off debt and whatnot. I don't have credit card, I never pay credit card interest. But um, um, many women experience this, that we are very cautious about asking for amount of loan. We want to make sure that we can handle paying it and whatnot. But that vote of confidence and doubling my request is just very much deeply appreciated. And I guess it shows that trust and confidence in me.
Yeah, absolutely. And to hear that from a banker, who's, saying, hey, not only, why didn't you come here sooner to ask for this,
Yeah.
uh, but I'm going to double the amount you're asking for. That's huge, because bankers aren't known for that.
No, exactly. So yeah, I was really, really I'm telling you, and it's very inspiring too, because the her office is in the 10th floor. And you get to see Aganya and the ocean, and if that doesn't
Yes,
inspire you, I don't know what will.
yes. All right. So for listeners who hear appraiser and think it's just like paperwork. What is a real estate valuation, at a professional level, as well as just kind of explain it so the layman can understand? And what are you really being asked to do for banks and investors and agencies and the community? Can you kind of give us an explanation of that?
Sure, sure. So yeah. So, an appraiser is defined as someone who can provide unbiased and objective opinion on value. And there are all kinds of definition of value. There's market value, which is a willing buyer and willing seller, no knowledgeably, with prudent intention. They are willing to say, okay, Siska, I have this Flora Pago condominium. I wanted to sell it to you at 300,000 because it can generate this much income. It My next door neighbor just sold his for 300,000. We're in the same condition, and that's you as a seller. And I said, hey Rob, yes, you're right, but the interest rate is so high now. Da 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 da. So as an appraiser, we get to the minds of the buyer, the seller, the banker, the real estate agent, all the parties involved, and try to reconcile that into an opinion. And it has an effective date because the market value of things today and say the market value of things say March 15, 2020, before the pandemic closed Guam, is totally different, or before the Typhoon Mawar and after the Typhoon Mawar. So effective date is an important component of it. Market value, willing buyer, willing seller. But we also do all kinds of other value, meaning like some would ask, oh, what is the liquidation value of this house during the many foreclosure time, when you only have a limited marketing period? We need to sell it in 30 days. What can I get for liquidation value? So, and the key to an appraiser is unbiased and objective. And it's backed by, strong market data. And so that's the simple way of explaining it. But of course, when you, like me, I'm a commercial appraiser. So I appraise, many income producing properties like hotels, commercial buildings. Then you go deeper into that. And the value of an income producing property, the market value of an income producing property, is determined by its ability to generate income. And then, just by looking at the profit and loss, I could tell, hey, you need to do something because your energy expense is above market. Other hotel are only costing them 10% of the revenue. It costing you 15% of revenue because you haven't changed your boiler and this and that. That means you have a deferred maintenance. So anyway, all of those factor needs to be analyzed and appropriately projected, and that's how one get to a market value. So um it's hard to be an appraiser if you don't really like, for example, in my case, I also put my money where my mouth is. I invest in real estate. I build houses with my late husband, and have fun with it and learn the property development, marketing, property management through all of it. And I have firsthand experience on all of that. So yeah.
Yes, yes. So, what are the biggest categories of risk you're weighing when you estimate value, specifically here on Guam?
Yes. So yes, Gary Hiles, our chief economist, famously said
Yes.
before, uh, when the world um, when the world sneezes, Guam catches cold. Like
Mm,
every little thing that happened outside Guam, it affected us a lot. And so we have a lot of external influences that is beyond our control. For example, our tourism market, right? And this is what an appraiser do. We analyze the global economy, go closer to regional, go closer to Guam, and then go to the neighborhood and look at the property, and then analyze it. So for example, strong US dollar, it affected the number of tourists that comes to Guam. It affected the businesses. It affected the retail market in Tumon. Hence, the closure of several establishment in Tumon because of the strong US dollar and limited number of tourists that came to Guam. And so, we have to think about those risk factor. And unfortunately, many of it is outside of our control. Political risk. I was thinking back in the first Guam real estate boom in 1970s when President Nixon visited Beijing and Taiwan was scared, and then they buy real estate. They started buying real estate in Guam, the Taiwanese in 1970, and then there's the Japanese economic boom in 1990s, late 80s, and they built golf courses at $4 million a hole, and they have free money. And so there's a lot of factor that is external that affect Guam real estate, and it's important to look at that, and to look at the uniqueness of the market in Guam. For example, residential rental market in Guam, we have three different type of tenant. We have the military subsidized, they have a fixed rate. And then we have the Section 8 subsidized, they have a certain rate for certain number of bedroom. And then we have the local that doesn't have the subsidy. And any changes in all of this component will disrupt the market. And that's why many development that is successful in Guam, for example, like Paradise Estate, they do it in phases because Guam is just too small to kind of absorb immediate disruption in supply nor demand.
Okay. So those subsidized components of the market that you were talking about, military and Section 8, about what percentage does that account for the market?
It's kind of hard to quantify because they don't publish that number. I do believe there are about 2,500 Section 8 vouchers on Guam, and if we say the average is about $1,500 a month average, if I say the average is $1,500, and that's about 18,000 a year, and 18,000 a year times the 2,500 voucher, I'll just do a quick math here. It's about 45 million. And I've heard that the military subsidized market is about another 100 million. So about 150 million between them. And it's kind of hard to quantify how much is the local because sometimes some people are just renting a room in a big house. So it's kind of hard to quantify that other sector of the market.
This is why I'm so in awe of you. I love the way that you just did that math problem and use that engineering side of your brain to solve a math question right on the fly in public. So,
I don't know if that's dad from the engineering side or from a mother of five side. I don't know which one is heavier on that one.
yeah. Okay, so let's shift gears now. I kind of want to talk about Guam's signature development story, the rise of Tumon.
Mm.
I've really wanted to get and sit and talk to somebody who can educate me on that because I feel like there's a lot of lessons there to be learned in the rise of Tumon that we can apply to kind of what we're going through right now with the military buildup as well as the future of Guam. So, can you talk any about the historical perspective of development of Guam's Tumon resort area?
Yeah, it's nice to reminisce and look back. I like doing that. I haven't had chance to do that in a while, but in 1970, the tourist arrival in Guam was at 44,000.
Wow.
1970. And then in like around I think 1975 it grew to about 221,000, and then in 1995 it was around 900,000 something, and a million in the year 2000, and our peak was 2019 at 1.7 million. And now we're around like 750, 800,000. So we were back to the year of 1990, 1995 on our tourist arrival. So the first wave of the hotels are like the Hilton, the Okura, which is now Lotte in 1970s. That's when they built it. And then the next boom, the real biggest boom, is in the late 80s. And that is totally related to the Japanese economic bubble. The bubble
Okay.
economy where they wanted to like just, and of course at the time Japanese tourists are the majority of our tourists. And so many Japanese investment in Tumon. They always say the Palisan Vitores Road divide Tumon into the beach side and the hillside. And the beach side before are all owned by the Japanese, and the hillside before is owned by Taiwanese Chinese. Of course,
Wow.
the now it kind of changes because there's a Taiwanese investor, Lee Pao, that owns at least one, the former Ipao Beach, near Ipao Beach Park, the site by Fujita Hotel, former Fujita Hotel, and the site by Westin Hotel. So they own at least three that I can remember. I thought they own four, but at least three that I can remember on the beach site right now. So those
Hmm.
were the development, boom and bust of Tumon. And at some point in late 80s, early 90s, 1 square meter of land in Tumon was $2,500 a square meter,
Wow.
$2,500 square meter. And then in like 2001 to 2003, the same land was sold for 10 cents on a dollar. Yeah. And
Wow.
now it probably backed up to about, 40, 50 cents on a dollar, the same land.
Wow.
So yeah. So those were the boom and bust of Guam Tumon real estate. So now our obviously because of the tourism industry and the changing landscape of retail, I still stick to my thinking that it's the changing retail industry in the world that bring the demise of DFS, the Tea Galleria. People nowadays wants to buy the Hermes bag or the Chanel bag or Louis Vuitton bag that they have, or purse in Paris. Oh, we went to Paris, we ate croissant and we bought
Yes.
this Longchamp, whatever. They want experience, and that just really changes the dynamic of retail. And so, as we can see, Tea Galleria is closing in Sydney and Melbourne last September. And then they announced that Waikiki is closing, and Guam is going to close in March, end of March of this year. So, yeah,
Yeah.
things change, but we have to change our mindset too. I just finished writing article on for Guam Business Magazine. I write annually for Guam Business Magazine, an economic forecast on real estate outlook. And what I shared in there is that, yes, it's kind of like, I don't know if you know Stranger Things movie,
Yes.
the
My
miniseries.
son
So
is a big,
a big
huge
fan.
fan of it. So I
Yeah,
watch it
so
with
when
my
I wrote the
son.
article, my article is titled End of Beginnings and Other Stranger Things. And I know people who has teenager would relate to, will be able to relate to that. But what I was referring to is this song by the John Kerry. He is Steve Harrington in the miniseries, and
Yeah.
he's basically the song "End of Beginning" is very nostalgic about a time in his life in Chicago, and how romantic and whatever. But things change, and so I think I was kind of reflecting, and I said in my article that, rather than, just keep anchoring ourselves to the 2019 peak where we have 1.9 million tourists, it's good that we look 10 years ahead. What kind of community do we want Guam to look like? And then also, though, take inventory of our capabilities, and plan accordingly.
Yeah.
So, I think, James Clear, I don't know, I'm sure you know James Clear, Atomic Habits. He said there's two
Hmm.
time frame that really matters in our life. Next 10 year and then next hour. What can you do an hour a day to be where you want to be 10 years from now? So I think, and during election season, and I know it's been done before, but I think Guam needs to have a blueprint that we want to achieve, and no matter who the administration is, which party or whatever, we follow that thread of blueprint, and then we can get to where we want.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. You got me at one to have church up in here, sister. That's definitely, you are preaching the word. We do. We need a strong blueprint for the future that's handed
Yeah.
off from administration to administration. And we hold each administration, whether you're Democrat or Republican, responsible for following and carrying the ball down the field to make progress on what that plan is. You're absolutely right about that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's how Lee Kuan Yew was able to
Yes,
turn Singapore from,
yes,
third world country into first world countries in,
yes.
practically no time. But, it was dictatorship in a way. And so we can't do
And
that
that's what
in
everybody
America.
defaults to. They
Huh?
default to, well, he was a dictator. Yes, he was a benevolent dictator, but he was a dictator. So that's why he was able to do it. But again, in a democratic
In a
um,
democratic way, we could totally
republic,
do it.
we can do it. It just
Yeah.
requires commitment,
Commitment.
accountability, and
Accountability. I
hard work.
agree. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I got so excited there with you talking about it. So let's go back to the Tumon rise and build up. What were the big issues and challenges and lessons learned for that time? Because, like you were talking about, did we really have a good plan? We being Guam have a good plan for how Tumon was going to rise, or did that just happen by, almost in an ad hoc kind of way?
I think it's a combination of both. I remember, the creation of Pleasure Island. It's kind of driven by the Israel, at the time, Alfred Israel. You know where Pleasure Island is, where DFS and Dusit,
Yes,
that center of gravity of Tumon at one point. Because we didn't have at the time, most of our tourists are the Japanese tourists that doesn't, it's not a free independent traveler that wants to, like the Korean, they like to rent a car, drive around the island. But the typical, at the time, typical Japanese clients wants to just be bussed around here and there. And they try to make a place, the Pleasure Island, where they could just walk around at. And so that I remember Governor Carl Gutierrez was a big supporter of that plan, and then it happened. So that's the Pleasure Island part. And so I don't know if well, there is some kind of coalition when they try to build the infrastructure to support that development. Then Swavely would be a great guest because he would have so many stories to tell you. But I would say there's not that much, what should I say, coordination or blueprint in a way. And it just kind of happened. And because, there's an economies of scale, and then people just start to, like, concentrate on developing Tumon. But I do like what the GVB is doing right now, trying to revitalize the area. The Sunday market is bringing a lot of energy
yes.
into that. So yeah, like I said, the past is the past. We should just take inventory of what we have, change, okay, we only have 800,000 now instead of our peak. What can we do to make this work with the constraint that we have? And then where do we want to be in 10 years?
Yeah. So it sounds like if you could go back in time and advise those leaders during there, it would be more of a future focus. Where do you want to be? And a lot less of the ad hoc aspect of how the rise of Tumon happened. Am
Yeah.
I hearing that correct?
Yes, but like everything else, hindsight is always 2020, Rob. We don't know what actual problem they receive at the time. So, I restrain myself from judging because, yeah, hindsight is always
You're right.
2020.
You're right. So let's shift gears and start now focusing on that future, right? So a lot of my writing and even the underlying theme of this podcast is really about Guam becoming this 21st century tech and innovation hub and shifting from just simply hosting military forces to actually supporting and sustaining those forces, right? So, looking at things from real estate and land use perspective, what land is realistically available on Guam for large industrial purposes?
Yeah.
What do you
So,
think?
yeah. So, I want to touch a little bit on your future plan for Guam. I'm really excited about the Gamma manufacturing, the 3D printing
Yes,
that is trying to support the Navy, US
yes,
Navy, to print product. And I know you're involved a lot with drone. And but also Guam could be the place where we could manufacture high level goods, high level, I don't know, pharmaceutical,
yes,
but we do need infrastructure. That's
yes,
the key
yes.
word there, infrastructure. My son actually just got a internship offer. His electrical engineering, like I told you, but he got a internship offer at General Atomics. I don't know if you're familiar
Oh,
with
okay,
them.
yeah,
Yeah, they just
yeah,
signed actually a 7.4 billion contract with US Air Force to manufacture drone.
yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah,
anyway, they're involved in nuclear power. And I think nuclear industry has advanced so much. And, we could explore other feasible sources of electricity in Guam. And, it's not wrong to look at nuclear power because all of this new industry that we want to support that is going to provide high paying job for UUG and GCC graduates that needs electricity and
yes,
so we need that and we need infrastructure so you know what the military buildup starting in fiscal year 2018 did to our market, local market is really, they wanted to build a brand new base from scratch within like very short time, 5 years, 5 to 7 years. They wanted to spend $8.3 billion fund to develop this base. And what it does to Guam is it absorbs all of the construction company capability, and there's no one left outside to build new supply of housing, new supply of apartment, new supply of industrial park, commercial building. There's nothing, and it skyrocketed the cost of existing houses, existing properties, and it made it unattainable for local to acquire land. I am all for development, but and because we're so small, the big development in such a short time frame, it put like real pressure on our infrastructure. And that's what I think, I shared this in one of the meeting that I had, I believe, with the Guam Contractors Association. I think so. But anyway, I said, oh no, it was on Guam Chamber of Commerce, and Rear Admiral was there. Our, first love, for the lack of better word, first love affair is Marine Drive, Marine Corps Drive. That road that we travel every single day is built by the Marines. And,
Yeah.
and that's how I think this one Guam vision can be established if the military help us with the infrastructure so that we can empower our locals to to build their own houses, to build their facility. But without infrastructure, it's going to be hard to do.
I agree with you 100% that if we're going to start moving into the up the value chain to industrial operations, infrastructure is going to need a lot of work, whether you're talking about roads, whether you're talking about power, whether you're talking about water, et cetera, that you're going to need that. Industry is going to need that for reliable kind of production processes and logistics processes to help. And,
Yeah.
you start looking at different areas and possibilities like you know uh, just recently Bella Wings Aviation announced their deal with a large Taiwanese company to start manufacturing the first drone parts here on Guam.
Yeah,
So I
I
see
saw
that
that.
going. Yeah, and then of
Congratulations.
course so Gamma also, like you talked about, the Guam Additive Materials and Manufacturing Accelerator, that's a huge kind of thing. But at some point, you're going to have to start working on the infrastructure, and that being one of those things that gets turned over from administration to administration to carry the ball down the field so that 10 years from now, we're not in the same kind of place. And because we worked on that infrastructure, we've now attracted new firms who want to use Guam as a node in their supply chain to do value added work, thereby creating those jobs that you were talking about for
Exactly,
the
Rob.
recent
Exactly.
UOG and GCC folks.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I have not forgotten your real question on where is the big parcel of land that can be used for industrial development on Guam. I have not forgotten that. So, in year 2000, there's a lot of former federal access land that got returned to government of Guam, and those pockets are in Route 3 vicinity where the GRMC is. Actually, GRMC is built on one of those land. And Dan Swavely and his clients like did a very good move,
Who's
and they
Dennis
like
Waverly?
Dan Swavely. He's a chief planner. Well, he's a planner, and he used to work at GWA, but he's a consultant. He's
Okay.
a planner consultant, and he did the zoning of the area, and it's called the Dos Amantes planning area, and most of it is zone M1, and that's where the new hospital is located. That's where the Cortec Okudu village housing, and then they also built uh, one of those land is built for a 50 lots industrial park. There's so much abundant land, about 3 acres that got returned there. But the problem is not all area has infrastructure. So that makes it difficult. Some area has, some don't. So Route 3, there's an abundance of land that can be developed there. And also Route 15, Mangilaw. There are abundant of land in there that was returned from the former federal excess land. And those area, the problem is the same. No infrastructure. There's no sewer line that can,
Yes.
yeah. So again, we go back to the main, the basic problem is infrastructure. So those two area, and there's of course there's Polaris area, but those areas are the one that I'm thinking that's readily available and within a short distance.
Yeah, so I'm going to play a um, devil's advocate kind of thing with you here. Um, a great vision that a lot of people talk about is the idea of really developing the area around Petey and Cabras Island, close to the port. And I'm told a lot of that land is already owned by the government of Guam. And the idea that you could put industrial kinds of activities there, like, for example, a state of the art industrial facility where you could do ship repair and many different primes could come in there and be working on different contracts at the same time in this state-of-the-art facility, supporting ship repair through different kinds of commercial as well as public-private partnership kind of things, as well as just putting industrial spaces close to the port so that they wouldn't have to, bottleneck traffic and stuff. What do you say to that?
Yes. So that is a great idea, but again, that area also didn't have infrastructure. I believe Matson leased some land there, but the problem again is infrastructure. And infrastructure is really costly, and it just didn't make economic sense for a developer to put in all of the infrastructure, because by the time they're ready with the infrastructure, there's nothing left to develop, and the cost of land becomes so expensive. And that's why I go back on and on and on about infrastructure. So for example, right now for a metal building, you can only get maybe $1 a square foot for the rent, but it's already gonna cost you at least $200 to $300 per square feet just for the building, let alone bringing the infrastructure, the land costs, and whatnot. So it doesn't pencil out. That's the reason why it didn't happen, because it does not make economic sense yet to do that big development. You can't just in Guam, you can't just build it and then they'll come. You can't just do that because it's too costly. And yeah, so it costs so much more to build now that it doesn't make economic sense, because the market rent is still, way below the feasibility rent.
Hmm. So, I've argued in different writing and stuff that, um, Guam is very reliant on grants and federal appropriations in order to try to fund and raise capital for these kinds of projects. But my criticism has been that really a lot of these projects require capital from the private markets in order to do. And the justification to get the private markets interested in it is a lot of the policy documents, everything from the national security strategy to national defense industrial strategy, the regional sustainment framework, the partnership in the Pacific, all of those kind of things are saying we, the federal level, want to push more industrial capability out um, to these areas, particularly the Indo Pacific
Pacific.
area. We want to make this happen. Therefore, maybe private markets would see, okay, this is a good bet. Let me put money down on Guam to build these kind of warehouses and um, industrial spaces and stuff like that, because I'm getting all of these demand signals from the federal level to say this is what they want to do. It's not just Guam coming to the table and saying this is good for Guam, so invest here.
Yeah.
What do you say about that?
Yeah, that's kind of tough, because we experienced that on a very, very, very small scale in when they first announced the military buildup in 2006 and 2007.
Mm-hmm.
So some construction company or military related contractor came to Guam from Hawaii and built facility, built warehouse, and then and then suddenly things change. And 2006, 2007, they build it. 2008, it's there. And then the development didn't really happen until 2017, 2018. And so they had to sell it at, whatever, 50 cents on a dollar or even less than that, because they can't hold on to wait 10
They
years.
can't just hold and wait for the federal government.
Correct.
That's a
So,
great
so
perspective. Great
yeah,
perspective.
so in a much smaller scale, it happened. And like I said, Guam is very susceptible to external forces. Yes, they have this plan and then they change it, So I I think, what has to happen in Guam is little by little. And that's why it's really important that we carry the thread. We have a blueprint of where we want to be,
Yes.
so that we could kind of have some kind of say on it. But there are a lot of opportunities with, the new Marine base. All of this money that they spend to build things, those things will break, and or those things needs maintenance. And there's a lot of
Yes.
opportunity in that section if we want to get into it.
Yes. Yes. Oh man, this is a great conversation. Let's shift gears again and look at multi-use, mixed-use development, and the Route 3 corridor idea, because you already started talking about that land up there. You know, with all of the development that's happening up in order to make Camp Blas happen, there are some who see a vision or potential. That's like the next area to kind of build up, like around that Route 3 corridor strip. That would be a great place to put restaurants and bars and
Yep,
coffee
and some
shops
are
and
planning to
fitness
do
centers.
it. Yep, it's in the
Yeah, all of that
process.
kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But if we get really smart and we plan this out correctly, instead of it just being going up ad hoc, use it for multi-use and mixed development so that you integrate the housing piece into that. What do you think about that
Oh yeah,
kind of thing?
definitely. But again, definitely. I mean, it happens, all over Asia. You have like the retail on the ground floor and then residential
Yes,
on the top floor.
yes,
One even have like a senior housing apartment on top of a train station in Singapore. And it's so good because the senior can just go down and have their hair done, or
mm,
eat at the restaurant downstairs, and they see people. And when you have that, what should I say, community, you're happier and people live longer.
yes,
So
yes,
those ideas is really good. I mean, even in LA, the Americana, it has an apartment and then like an open air shopping center. That is a great idea. The only problem in Guam is we don't have economies of scale, and the construction cost is way too high to make it happen and affordable. If you have to build, at like $500 a square feet, so for 1,000 square feet of two-bedroom, two-bath, that will cost you 500,000. You cannot get your money back. There's no return on investment if you don't rent it, I don't know, for like $5,000 at least. And who can afford $5,000 rent in Guam?
right.
So it's going back to that, infrastructure. And that's why, the only new development of residential in Guam lately has been the low income housing tax credit. That's the only thing that can make sense, because basically, it costs the developer half the cost to develop because the federal give them subsidy through tax credit. And so that's our problem. The construction cost is too high, it's not feasible, and there's no economies of scale in Guam. But,
So
mhm.
how can we innovate that? Is there wiggle room in the RFI and the work with the government to um, develop certain kind of contractual vehicles or partnerships so that we give the government, the federal government or the military, what they want, while at the same time they're contributing to what we need or want, so that the building and the development takes place on a dual track, not
Yes.
just it's doing the military.
Yes.
How would you go about solving that problem?
Yeah, so I think, the military helping with building the infrastructure that would ease development costs. And then the other thing that the government of Guam is already doing is a failing um, uh, qualifying certificate QC for new development. We tried to do that. Actually, we have one already at GIDA that we approve. And so those tax incentive, providing infrastructure, and those are the two things that come to my mind right now.
Okay. So, what I'm hearing from you, this is a tough nut to crack, and it probably really needs a lot of smart people like yourself, and people with a buy-in and a skin in the game to sit down from a Guam perspective and plan this out over time. So it's not going to be something that's a one-shot kind of deal. It's going to be an incremental development over
Correct.
time, yeah,
Yes,
in order to
yes,
get there.
definitely. And I do hear that there were about 140 submittals to that RFI that requires about 2,400 housing unit by 2033. I believe they need 1,600 by end of fiscal year 2028, and they need another 800 by end of fiscal year 2033. And so I heard there were 140 submittals, and I know they've gone back to the people who submit another more detailed plan on this. And I appreciate that the military is bringing in the private developer, because they're the only one that can afford um, you know um, to finance this housing on Guam.
Yeah, I tell you, there's so many opportunities, but like you said, there's some real challenges here in the Guam market. And if you don't have the right people really deliberately planning this and working this over time, not these major course corrections or policy changes or direction changes, just a steady incremental march, if you will, toward
Exactly,
where you're going,
exactly. Yeah.
it's not going to happen because you're just sitting waiting for something, you know.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, Siska, I tell you, I could sit here all morning talking to you, throwing different questions and stuff at you, but I need to be respectful of your time.
Thank
This
you,
was an
Rob.
incredible conversation. I will tell you, I would really would like to have you back, and maybe even
Sounds good.
conversations off camera, talking about kind of how do we crack this nut and start moving things uh, forward with Guam and Guam real estate development. Because I really wanted to pick your brain about the idea of a mini um, version of Tumon developing on the northeast side of Guam. What does that look like? How would you invest in that if you were planning a mini Tumon resort area now on the northeast side of Guam? What would that look like, and how would you go about, um,
It's a beautiful place,
getting
the
there?
northeast side of Guam, but
Yes,
again, no infrastructure.
yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it's a
yes,
beautiful place. I love northeast side. But I love
yeah,
Guam. I mean, even if you go south, it's so beautiful. Agate has the best sunset, and I
yes.
never get tired. I've been living on Guam for 27 years. I never get tired of our sunset. I still walk to Tumon. I still drive my kids to Maleso. Um, you know, um, some of us forget to enjoy Guam too. People pay thousands of dollars to be on Guam. I don't ever take it for granted.
Yes, and like you said, that drive down south, it's like you escape to a whole different world.
Oh
Once you
yeah.
go down and you get past Agate, it's like you're in a totally different world,
Yep.
and a lot of your cares and stress kind of start
Just
dissipating in the
melted away.
background. Yeah, just love that. Just love that. Thank you, Siska, so much for giving us your real world data driven look at, Guam real estate. We need a lot of that to prepare for the future that we want to have. Thank you for sharing everything, your great knowledge of valuation and all kind of economic indicators. Um, so before we wrap up, uh, do you have any last words? And if somebody wants to get in touch with you or Cornerstone Valuation, how can they contact you?
Yeah. Well, I'd first like to say it's been a pleasure and thank you for having me. And I hope I shared, information that is valuable because your time is valuable too. So thank you for having me. And, you could just say Siska Guam on Google and you'll find me.
Okay, that's very easy. Siska Guam on Google. Because again, like Beyonce or Rihanna, we all know who we're talking about when we say Siska.
Thank you for having me, Rob, and thank you for the listener to listen to this podcast.
Thank you so much. And to my audience, thank you for listening. Be sure to follow me, like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to check out my Innovate column in the Pacific Daily News every first and third Friday of the month. See you next time. And remember, whether you're at work, at home, or at play, always innovate. Thank you.